when your father cheats on your mom, what I really mean is that your dad's cheating on his family. And that includes the kids. And so I remember, how could he do this to me? How did he do this to me? Why am I not enough for him? And, now looking back, I mean, that's valid. That's a valid thing. It's not that he just did it to my mom, although I understand why a lot of people think about it that way of like, oh, well, they're married, he did it to your mom, right? And of course, he did it to my mom. That's unforgivable in my opinion. But what's also valid is that he did it to his kids. How could he do this to us? Why was I not good enough? Why was I not important enough? Why wasn't I considered in this decision? And it's some food for thought, because that's how I truly felt in 7th grade.
Oh my God, I love social media so much. I hate it and I love it. And this video is so good. I've linked it in my caption because this is the reframe that we need. This is the reframe. When men cheat on their wives, they leave their families. Well, even if they don't leave their family, they are literally cheating on the entire family. And we need to frame it that way. Dad, okay, y'all know I talk about men cheating on here. And seriously, you will never convince me that cheating is about schmegs. Especially with men. I know sometimes women cheat. Don't derail the conversation. I know there's nuance to this conversation. I know there's exception. But what we know is that a whole lot of dads leave their whole families because they have affairs, and then go marry the people they have affairs with, or they just leave their families so they can just fork whoever they want or whatever. And now men have stolen, really ruined ethical non-monogamy, polyamory, open relationships. They literally, cishet men ruin everything that could be good. Because one of the things that they talk about all the time, and there's multiple articles, I've done videos about this before. I did one even yesterday talking about this. They were like, I want an open marriage. They don't want an open marriage. They want to be able to cheat without the stigma and the consequences of cheating. They want to be able to eat their cake and have it too. Because these men benefit so much from marriage, from having all that free labor, having a woman almost die, having his children to pass on his legacy, which is literally just going to be abandonment and trauma half the time. And nasty ass baby gravy because they literally don't even take care of themselves and they're so drinking and smoking and doing all this stuff. Blah. You don't want to pass on that man's genes, I promise you. You want the raises at work that they're going to get for getting married, and then even more for being a father, while the women who marry these men ruin their careers because they are forced to do so much extra unpaid labor, a lot of times forced to quit their own careers because men are making more because of patriarchy. And then those women will never return to the workforce at the same level they started, so they have to start all over. Some of them are on food stamps. Some of them are homeless, unhoused, because these men were like, I'm tired of you. I'm going to go fork someone else and marry them and abandon you, even though I took and took and took and took and took. It was never enough. Men are parasites. And so instead of having any social stigma with being divorced and being a cheater, which again, it's never as much as women will have when they are divorced. Single moms still fight such a huge stigma, even though single moms prove how obsolete men are. We don't need y'all. I was raised by a single mom, and I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. If it had been my cheating dad at home, who was a narcissist and alcoholic and or a single mom who was a lioness who centered herself because he was gone, I will always choose my upbringing over. I'm so glad he literally did us a favor. So in the end, I try to see the silver lining on everything, which is that he actually did us a favor, but that doesn't let him off the hook for basically being a cheater on his whole family, his 2 daughters, and not just his wife. So because men are so convinced that they just lose so much money to alimony and child support, even though they literally will never be able to pay, almost always, unless she has a really good lawyer, they will still never, ever, ever have to pay enough in all the labor that they are getting from that woman and got from that woman, and how much they ruined her life, her body, her health, her sleep, her everything. And then when they were done, like a Kleenex, next, new one to soil with your ugh. So instead of, because they're so convinced that they lose so much in divorce, now they're just like, you know what? I know. Let's have an open relationship. Now, these men who do this are so dumb because a lot of times the women end up being like, okay, fine. And then those women get laid and get their eaten by all these men who are such better lovers than their husband. And then the women and ones wanting to leave this man because she realized he's trash by comparison. So I love it. It is literally just like so perfect that men who want open relationships and polyamory all of a sudden are literally trying to have their cake and eat it too. And then they get nothing. Take the cake. That is one reason why it drives me crazy that all these men are trying to talk women into open relationships and poly relationships and all this other crap, is because they literally just don't want to deal with like divorce because it's expensive. Even if they end up not even having to pay as much as they owe that woman and all her priceless labor, have an open relationship. But those men are at least a little bit braver than the men who just cheat. And the men who just cheat are not cheating because they have a need. Men do not need schmegs. The more men demand schmegs, the more emotionally stunted and messed up in the mind and soul and heart that man is. Because that man does not know love. That man does not understand intimacy as anything other than that man, you probably are better off without him. So they're not actually going to cheat on you because they need schmeg. If they really needed schmeg, they would literally make any effort to get their wives to try to want to sleep with them. Because I promise you, and as I might show you in just a minute, or it might be a second video, there is a thread on Twitter right now that is horrifying, absolutely horrifying, when these men are admitting out loud how much they wish they could grape their wives. I wish so bad that it wasn't illegal. Although it was legal until like Lorena Bobbitt. God bless that woman who, because I watched TV back then, I was like, who's this crazy lady who chopped off his and tossed it out a window? And I've actually written about this. And thank you to the documentary that gave that woman a reframe. Actually, I should talk about it. I wrote about it for Glenn. Because they can't just grape us. And some can't get an open relationship out of it. Then they're just going to cheat. But I would argue, and I've made videos about this before, that most of the times they're cheating. It is not about cheat. It's not about schmegs. It is about deception. They get off on it. They get off on the excitement and the thrill of tricking you. And by the way, these men who are cheating on you, I wish one day they could be held accountable in a court of law. Even though there is no justice in the justice system, less so, the more marginalized you get. I wish that they could be held accountable and have consequences for all the STIs they bring home to their partners. Because these men are so reckless in general. You really think they're using protection? You really think they're using protection? Because I got news for you. Monogamous couples at the same risk of STIs as people in open relationships. These men are literally unalive you in so many ways. A lot of times STIs end up causing way bigger problems in the long run if going untreated. And how often do you think a married woman is getting tested? Right? This stuff may go undiagnosed for years. Why would you need to get tested if you're only sleeping with one person and it never occurred to you, A, that they would betray you, B, they would be recklessly bringing in STIs into your sacred bedroom? See that these men, they won't even go to the doctor if they literally have all the signs of cancer or big thing. You really think they're going to go get tested for something regularly? They literally won't even wear a rubber. So men are cheating, not because they have a biological need for schmeg. And I tell you this, a woman who has, in pretty much all my relationships, been like, hey, and a woman on Tinder had so many men who are too lazy to drive over to fork me. I am not even kidding. It is about their ego. It is about getting away with something like a toddler, and the whole family pays. The whole family pays for men's need. Their real need is to feel superior. Their real need is to feel like the world is owed to them without having done anything, because that is their social conditioning under patriarchy, white supremacy culture, and capitalism is literally what they have been taught by the government, the church, every single thing they've consumed on social media, on the movies and books and magazines and television, what all their friends have told them, what their daddy told them, their granddaddy told them, literally everything. These men are swimming in the water of entitlement, okay? And so that is honestly one of the first things I look for in a man is how entitled is this man? It is literally the most important litmus test. And again, men trick us all the time and lie all the time. So a lot of times you still can't detect it for a long, long time, but it's gonna come out one day. And these men, well, one of the first things they do is cheat on you. It's not because they need it. It's because they feel they deserve it. Vows, schmows, those are for you, for better or worse, or for women. In sickness and in health is for women, because those men are 6 times more likely to abandon your butt if you get anything at all. It's probably even more likely, not probably, it is more likely when it's terminal. But I'd even argue these men will look for any reason to abandon if it means they actually have to do something in that relationship. So for sickness and in health is literally for like all the vows. I mean, they literally used to be honor and obey this prick. Like, fork those vows, man. Make up your own. But that is how they think. The vows are for you, not for them. In every way, including being loyal to you. And so, like I've said in other videos, my ex, literally, like, I never cheated on him. I never even thought of cheating on him. And this man was going to Craigslist to find people to cheat on me with, even though we were having schmegs all the time. It was never about schmegs. It's about being bored, dead inside, entitled, selfish, having no thought or regard for anyone but themselves, maybe for other men, but only as like a pawn in a chess game, because that is the epitome of capitalism, white supremacy, and culture and patriarchy is individualism. Me, fork everyone else. And yet for some reason, when men decide to make this enormous decision that literally makes it so a woman can never trust him again, because it is God, I hope I can remember to tag this person. It is betrayal trauma. It is not about the cheating. It's about the betrayal. It's about the lies. It's about the gaslighting. It's about the secrecy. It's about literally acting one way and acting the opposite behind that person's back. And they're not just doing it to their wife. They're doing it to the whole family. And men wonder why we don't want to take care of them and wipe their butt if and when their wife leaves them, hopefully, or dies before them, because we know these men are killing us through our nervous system, which again, I lost both of my grandmas long before my grandpas. And I know why. I know one of them for sure. Abusive man literally kept her hostage. She begged for a divorce, and then she died long before him, and he went on to marry another woman and live his best life. Literally laughed at her funeral. I'm king of the mountain now. Even had the audacity to quote to my father, his son, this person who lost their mother to cancer. He said to my father, free at last, thank God Almighty. Like, literally did the whole Martin Luther King Jr. speech. As a white man in the South, this man quoted, Luke. That's probably the only time he has ever quoted Dr. King. So these men who cheat on their wives, who torture their wives, who use weaponized incompetence, who use weaponized moodiness, who literally treat their wives like crap in front of their kid, then they wonder why the daughter doesn't want to wipe his butt when he gets old and has no one else. Daughters out there, especially older daughters, don't fall for it. Don't do it. You don't owe that man anything. If he has no one, that is the natural consequence of him burning so many bridges. Let him take care of himself. He will unalive you too through becoming his caretaker. So let us stop minimizing the damage that these fathers do to their whole family because of their betrayal, because it is never just about the wife. If you wanted to leave that marriage, you should have divorced her, had joint custody, and been her friend, and made that separation, that divorce, amicable. But instead, most men are cowards. Instead of actually coming out and saying, I'm not happy, and usually they're not happy because of like super selfish reasons anyway. But let's say they're just not happy. Instead of actually saying, I'm not happy, I think it's best that we be friends instead of married, they cheat as an easy way out. And when they do that, they set up all those kids, especially those daughters, to have terrible relationships with any partner in the future unless they get a whole lot of therapy. They set up those kids to have a terrible triangular relationship because mom is so pissed at dad, rightfully so, and has to try to hide it. And it's hard because kids are so smart. They know that if the way you say the word dad or your father, the way that mom will say your father, it's like, oh my God, she hates him. What did he do? Because I was so young when this happened. I was 4 years old when my dad left. But he cheated for 3 years, as far as I know. And I did not know that is the story behind it until much later. So nothing made sense to me. And so I had a very complicated, difficult, confusing relationship with why do these two people hate each other, right? It also set me up to have a terrible relationship with my stepmom, which actually is great now, but it's taken a long time and a lot of work. It sets the whole family up for having a terrible divorce, and therefore dad can't come to any games because it's going to ruin mom's peace. Like, literally, my dad didn't come to anything as a kid, partly because he was just too lazy and selfish. But even if he'd wanted to go, and maybe he didn't want to go to upset my mom. Well, guess what? If you hadn't cheated on her, maybe you wouldn't have done, maybe you could have come. Y'all maybe could have been friends. But these men are such cowards, literally won't do anything the easier way if it requires respecting a woman and being honest with her and considerate and thoughtful. These men get off on betrayal. They get off on hiding and sneaking around. They get off on having their ego stroked because they, like, literally, it is never about schmegs. And on the rare occasion it actually is because they need it. First of all, just go whack off to corn. But second of all, it would be so much easier to literally pour into your wife so she doesn't hate you and feel coerced when y'all have schmeg. You could literally set your life up so that those kids don't hate you by treating your wife well and trying to save your marriage. But they won't do that because then they don't get what they want when they want it. Like little king babies that are terrifying. So yeah, let's reframe this. It is not cheating on your wife. It is cheating on your entire family. And those kids have a right to be pissed at you as long as they need to. Least you can do is pay for everything and make sure their mom is taken care of. We'll say that my dad absolutely showed up and did that. A lot of men won't even do that. They'll go on Twitter and complain. Why do I have to pay alimony? Just won't pay. And by the way, any man that you're dating who doesn't have a driver's license, that is probably why he owes child support. I learned that on the internet after a video. I wish someone had told me that because that's exactly why my ex didn't have a driver's license and why he sabotaged all my efforts to help him. Anyway, hold dads accountable for betraying the whole family, not just the wife they hate, who gave them everything.